running into Israel's internal politics, having to contend with new government agreements that carve powers away from the military to give to civilian political leaders. One that lets Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich appoint generals to the hybrid civilian-military Kogat force in the West Bank. Another gives control of the military border police to Jewish Power Party leader and National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir. Neither civilian political leader has military experience. Halevi, on the other hand, has had a military career since 1985. He became commander of the Sayarat Matkal Recon and Special Forces Unit in 2001 and commanded Israel's Southern Command, as well as military intelligence during the 2018 and 2019 flare-ups with Gaza. Now, we are joined in studio by two important guests. That would be the retired Colonel Dr. Jack Neria, former head of assessment for the Israeli military intelligence, as well as the former foreign policy advisor to Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin. But we're also joined by Neri Zilber, adjunct fellow at the Washington Institute for Near East Policy. Thank you very much for joining us as we talk about the day. I want to start with you, Jack, because we have to ask the big question. In with the new boss, is he going to be any different than the old boss?
Well, the new boss will be definitely a continuation of the old boss because this is a military shake-up, if you can say, but there's no change in strategy. I mean, the biggest challenge today is, as you said earlier, is to keep the army homogeneous. I mean, and not to have three different bodies who take care of Israel's security. The army cannot allow that to happen. It means that if Ben-Gvir is going to be responsible of the border guards will be put out of Judea and Samaria, and the army will replace them. And the same way with the civilian administration, which is an important part of the army. And as in the past, I recall in the past that the chief of the civilian administration was a civilian. So if the compromise is that Smotrich will appoint a civilian, then it could be something different. But as I said, the biggest challenge today is the army, how to keep it as a whole. And then, of course, the series of threats that we have, the internal threats, domestic threats with the Hamas and the possible demise of Mahmoud Abbas, and what would be the future of the PA. And this is one thing. And I can imagine that in the next 4 years of his position, Halevi will have to face at least one outbreak of violence with Hamas. This is certainly the big question: is will there be a confrontation with Hezbollah, and how long would Iran accept the Israeli incursions into Syria and hitting the depots and hitting the convoys without responding? And this is also a challenge. Finally, above all, is the Iranian threat, the Iranian nuclear threat that has to be taken into consideration. And the fact is that now several of our civilian leaders, military and others, have expressed the fact that we are training in order to attack Iran. This has to be also on the agenda.
And I actually want to go to Neri with that. You can actually, before we address that, look at the live images as the ceremony is about to begin. Just in a couple of moments now, we are going to see a changing of the guard for the head of Israel's military. And to preview that a little bit more in studio, Neri, talk to us a little bit about the Iran threat. What are the international implications? What hurdles does Israel have to clear? And for the regions in general, what's going on here?
Well, the IDF Chief of Staff will be critical in any future war planning, especially with regard to hitting the Iranian nuclear program on Iranian soil. Clearly, there are international implications, first and foremost with regard to Israel's relationship with the U.S. Expect Herzi Halevi to continue the very close coordination that we saw in recent years, especially gearing up for these mass training drills, mock exercises, refueling midair, and other such platforms and capabilities, precisely for attacking Iran's nuclear program. So that will continue the very close relationship between the IDF and the U.S. military, but also in the diplomatic sphere. We saw Aviv Kochavi on several occasions in recent years come out very strongly and publicly against any return to the Iranian nuclear deal. That was a very high priority issue for the Biden administration. I expect Herzi Halevi to take a slightly different and perhaps less confrontational approach in terms of his own positions vis-a-vis any return to a deal, which we now know likely will not happen in any respect. But again, like with any shifting of the guard at the very top of the IDF, the policies, for the most part, continue. Policies are dictated by the government of the day, but on the margins and the nuances, there are clearly differences between each IDF chief of staff. So I expect Herzi Halevi to chart his own course relative to the outgoing now Aviv Kochavi.
And on the topic of Kochavi being a bit of a hardliner, as you mentioned, he came out a couple of days ago and said that Israel has at least 3 contingency plans in place to strike Iran. Given that the new government is pushing the security agenda once again, and Netanyahu has always been the strongest advocate against the 2015 nuclear deal and pushing for military solutions in many cases, are we likely to see any sort of advancement of these plans, or is this ultimately a matter of political will rather than military capability?
I think the political will is important. I think, we should call it diplomatic contact with regard to any Israeli strikes on Iran. Obviously, you'd have to get at least an orange light from Washington if Israel pulled the trigger, as it were, on any real strike inside Iran. But I believe, according to analysts here and both in America, it's an open question whether Israel has a very, genuine capability right now to strike Iran's nuclear program and to cause significant damage, and enough damage to set it back enough years to pay the cost of actually launching that operation, and with any blowback that we might see from Hezbollah in Lebanon and other proxy groups in the region. But I believe that the IDF chief of staff, and we saw this with Kochavi, and we see this from Bibi Netanyahu, the prime minister now, many instances, you at least have to project the idea outwardly, and especially vis-a-vis Iran, that you do have that capability right now to give them some pause and some doubt with regard to their ongoing and advancing nuclear program. Yeah. So they have to say it.
And it's definitely a challenge with the weapons in Israel's arsenal, deep penetrating munitions, refueling planes, which Israel doesn't technically even have yet. So it's not exactly the easiest strategy.
It's not exactly the easiest operation. I'll leave that for Jack and for the professionals. But I will say the IDF really wants various platforms like refueling planes, like deep penetration munitions, precisely because they need it to launch a credible and genuine operation against Iran.
Well, my colleague here spoke about an orange light, and I think that all Israel's action against Iraq or Iraq...
Hold on, Netanyahu is now entering as well with Kochavi and Gallant. So we are about to see something begin. Observe as they begin the ceremony. There are about to be speeches. Ranks will be formally handed out. But first you have a presentation here of the marching band. We're going to take this live for a little bit so you can watch this. And when the speeches begin, we're going to give you a live translation, so just bear with us for a couple of moments because they're about to begin. Until that does, though, let's continue with your...
As I said, Israel attacked the Iraq and Iraq without asking any permission from the United States. It's the same with the Syrian nuclear reactor built by North Korea. I think that Israel might surprise the Americans if it has...
Okay, so we're going to break in here and allow them to begin. We should have live translation beginning. Okay, continue then, while we wait for our live translation to begin.
If Israel has the means, material means to attack Iran, it will attack without asking the Americans. But I believe that my assessment is that without any backing, logistic backing by the United States, Israel won't be able to do that. Now, there's something on the strategic level that has to be taken into consideration. In 2013, when Israel and Netanyahu considered attacking the Iranian facilities, the people around him, chief of Mossad, chief of Shabak, the chief of staff, all were against. This is not the case today. Netanyahu is surrounded by hawkish persons like Gallant, who says that Iran has to be attacked. With the responsible of national security has also a very close ear to Netanyahu and can hush and say attack Iran. So, and we have a chief of staff who will obey, who will say, okay, if this is the plan, this is what we can offer. So the strategic layout has changed, and this is important to remember.
And my next question is, while you mentioned that Israel did not ask for American permission in previous operations,
because Israel has the quality of surprising the American administration.
The ceremony of awarding ranks, this is the part where they give the incoming chief of staff his new ranks. And as soon as they are done with the awarding of the ranks, we are going to have the prime minister speak. While we wait for that to begin, I'd like to address...
By the way, this is the first time in Israel history, military history, that such a ceremony is being held. Generally, it's much more, modest. It happens in the office of the prime minister. The ranks are given by the family or by the chief of staff's wife and the prime minister. Here, there's a big festival going on, and it has a political meaning.
Tell us more about that.
It means that this ceremony is going to be used or exploited by the politicians in order to give us their credo concerning the military and the defense strategy of Israel.
Which is why you have him standing up there with the prime minister and the former defense minister shaking everyone's hands in front of the camera right now. It's sort of grandstanding, as you're saying. And on that note, we now have the Prime Minister not quite ascending to the podium just yet. So until he does, we will continue with our discussion. He is now awarding
the flag of the Chief of Staff.
Flag of the Chief of Staff. Simply symbolic, or is that...
It's symbolic. It means that he has now he's responsible.
Okay, and I'm sure as soon as he begins speaking, we're going to find out what he views as his chief responsibilities.
Definitely.
What sort of pressure are we expecting internationally? Oh, no, finally, we have the Prime Minister ascending to the stand to begin speaking.
Defense Minister Yoav Gallant and all ministers of the government, Speaker of the Knesset and distinguished rabbis, the outgoing Chief of Staff, Aviv Kochavi, and incoming Chief of Staff, Herzi Halevi, members of the General Staff, IDF soldiers in the past, the Kochavi family, Halevi family, the bereaved families, and distinguished guests. Every commander in the IDF needs a thinking brain, a listening heart, and strong shoulders. There is a special strength in the shoulders, because on them is the responsibility for the security of the State of Israel, on which are the ranks that represents the authority of the command. In this occasion, in which we're awarding the ranks to the incoming Chief of Staff, we all remember the privilege of operating shoulder to shoulder in securing the security and the future of the State of Israel. Aviv, you're concluding over 40 years of serving the IDF. We met to conclude your operation. I thanked you for your service, for your achievements, your contribution to the IDF and to the security of the State of Israel throughout these years. And of course, over the past 4 years, as the Chief of Staff. The long journey that started at a base of paratroopers is now reaching its end, one point after another, that joined to one line with a shirt full of sweat, shoes full of dust, a finger on the trigger, combating the soldier, the enemy. All of these were part of your service throughout the 40 years. 4 years ago, you stood here when you entered your position, and I said, if we will be ready to protect our country, we may not needed to operate in a wide-scale operation. The IDF and the people of Israel will deal with the challenge. United, together, we will ensure the eternity of Israel. These things are also valid today. I don't repeat them to do a copy-paste, but because this is what I believe in. In front of the threats that we're facing, and particularly from the side of Iran and its proxies, we must show resilience and determination. This is what we've done over the past decade and throughout the 4 years in which you commanded the IDF. This is what we'll continue to do so. We've managed a relentless operation to prevent the entrenchment of Iran, to deliver direct weapons to Syria, operated against Iran's nuclear program, and have given blows to the terror organizations that hit Israel. The Guardian of the Wall operation, 1 year and 8 months ago, served the toughest blow Hamas has ever known. The quiet that we see on the Gaza border is a direct result of that iron fist. Our military might is an important part of our national resilience, not necessary only for war, but also for achieving peace in our region and elsewhere. Those who seek peace and those who are ready for war will achieve peace. The fact that we're stronger with our innovation and technology and with the diplomacy and economy brought the paths to the Abraham Accords that we brought. A few months ago, I visited Bahrain and Morocco, and I saw your meeting with the commanders of the militaries of Bahrain and Morocco. There is no better expression of Israel's new status in the region, from the Arab Gulf to the Atlantic Ocean. On behalf of myself and the people of Israel, thank you for your dedicated service for the IDF and for the security of the State of Israel. Now you could spend more time with your family. Nice family. You could travel the world. You could go back to old habits, playing instruments and drawing. We all wish you a great success and satisfaction for the rest of your career. For the incoming Chief of Staff, Herzi Halevi, the son of Nina, is with us, and Shlomo of blessed memory, who I knew and cherished. Herzi is Herzl, and it's good that we have a Chief of Staff with that name. The story of Israel starts with the Zionist dream that Herzl promoted. Herzl wished to free us from our time outside of the country and to stand tall and stand against those who wish to harm us. At the end of the 19th century, Herzl spoke about Jewish settlements in the State of Israel that is protected by self-defense. As we plant our roots in the homeland, we also operated to protect ourselves. And I'm always excited to see the soldiers who were born here, the new immigrants, the lone soldiers. The shine in their eyes fills my heart with pride and security. Each generation gets more from his previous generation and gives for the next generation. And you as well, Herzi, you received with your uncle, Herzi Halevi of blessed memory, who had fallen in the battle for Jerusalem at the Six-Day War. I remember as a Jerusalem child, at the time of the war, the moment of the sad news that came of his passing among the Jerusalem youth. And I remember the moment in which they told me that Herzi Halevi has fallen. The words, the wall, came out of his mouth before he lost his life. You also chose to serve as a wall of protection to our country. You are the first chief of staff who was born after the Six-Day War. Serving in combat, in the IDF's combat units. I know one of them very well. And I'm the one who, as the commander, enabled you to embark on operations. Was impressed with your dedication and attention to detail. We expect of you and we trust you that you will improve the IDF's capabilities even more in defense, in attack. You will also deal with the problems that needs to be solved, restoring the forces of the ground forces, the reserves, the theft of weapons from bases, and the thing that you spoke to me about yesterday, lengthily, the fact that quality personnel is leaving the military. The government will need to attend to these issues, and this will not be simple, Mr. Finance Minister. You know very well from your service that not only we advance, but also the enemy as well is getting stronger. And therefore, you and the IDF will need to prepare for what's coming, not to be satisfied with what has happened so far, but to initiate changes that will prepare the IDF better for the future battlefield. I do not mean just acquiring new weapons. The equipment is important, technology is important, the tactic and strategy are important, but all of these are not to come before the person. The fighting spirit, the knowledge that we are fighting for our homes, for our homeland. This is the source of our strength. What is our goal? What is your goal? Simply, decisive victory. I said earlier that Herzl is a name that comes with a meaning. And Herzl recognized the danger for our people, and he prepared a plan to ensure our existence. And today, the government of Israel recognizes the danger and orders the IDF to prevent the threat to our existence. Iran is responsible for 90% of the problems in the Middle East. The aggression of the regime in Iran destabilizes the region and threatens to destroy us and hurt other countries that are looking up to us. As the person who has the privilege of leading our strong country, our wonderful people, I say here clearly, we will not wait for the sword to be hanged on our necks. The IDF, together with the Mossad, together with the Shin Bet, will do everything needed to return a fight to our enemies. We will not be drawn and haven't been drawn into unnecessary wars. Maintaining human lives is the prime value for us, but in day of order, we will fight. There are situations in which we will need to show sacrifice to maintain our existence. Herzi, you will lead the IDF in the coming years. We trust your abilities. We wish you success. And I will say to you what Moshe Dayan said to Mayor Har-Zion: the ranks on your shoulders, they are not decoration, but an operational ranks. They are not for beauty, they are a symbol. Good luck to you, Chief of Staff Herzi Halevi, the 23rd Chief of Staff of the IDF. Thank you very much.
Was the Prime Minister, and up next is going to be Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, ascending right now to the podium, or about to.
Mr. Defense Minister Yoav Gallant.
And that's Yoav Gallant right now.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Speaker of the Knesset Amir Ohana, my colleagues, ministers, Head Outgoing, Head of General Staff Aviv Kochavi, Incoming Chief of Staff Herzi Halevi, heads of the security establishment, bereaved families, members of the General Staff, the families of Kochavi and Halevi, distinguished guests. The changes of Chief of Staff bring a double opportunity. The first, looking back at the previous years, remember with pride the accomplishments and show gratitude for Chief of Staff Kochavi, who was under his command. These achievements became from vision to reality. The second is to look forward to the years ahead, to set new targets, new heights, and to know that the missions ahead are in the best hands, the hands of Chief of Staff Herzi Halevi. The friends of the State of Israel and its enemies see it rightfully as a regional superpower with intelligence, military, technology, and financial capabilities. The IDF is a powerful military that deters, initiates, and attacks. It does not hesitate to take risks and operate strength in order to impact reality. Together with these, over the past periods, there is a great increase in the threats, the attempts of Iran with its nuclear military program at its most advanced status so far. Even the closest enemies are not quiet. The potential of deteriorating the situation in Gaza and Lebanon exists all the time, as does the possibility of an escalation in the West Bank. All of these make one thing clear. The job of the Chief of Staff is an important pole in the efforts to protect the country. This all stands on the quality of those serving and their devotion. The modern weapons that give us a relative advantage in front of our enemies, the fighting spirit, and the organic possibility of the military to work as one. Those allow, at the time of test, both in war and in regular times. One important role is the unity of the command. Everyone has one commander, and above all, the Chief of Staff, the Supreme Commander, under the Defense Minister and the government, under my job. And as the law specifies, I will make sure that the Chief of Staff, Herzi Halevi, will be able to fulfill his responsibility, and that external pressures will be stopped in my office and will not reach the gates of the IDF. Aviv, the past few years were rich in accomplishments under your command. The IDF operated in Gaza, in the West Bank, in Syria, and in Lebanon. In a series of successful operations under your command, we've operated special operations in close and far regions. With the 4 years that you conclude, you leave a fighting military that is better prepared to the challenges we're facing. A military in which you implanted new advances. You conclude 4 decades in uniform, all of them at the front of the battlefield. at the most challenging arenas. All of your adult life were dedicated to the safety of the State of Israel and its residents. Thank you, Aviv, for your career. Thank you, Yael, and the girls for you in this life journey. Herzi, it is seen that already in the name that you were given after your uncle, Herzi Halevi, who had fallen in Jerusalem at the Six-Day War, your faith has been tied with the deep responsibility for the security of the State of Israel. You always looked and managed to always be at the most dangerous and important points. And you showed responsibility and striving for overcoming the enemy. The challenges we're facing are complex. Preparing the program that will allow the government to receive any decision about blocking the Iranian efforts. I know you well, Herzi. I trust your abilities of leading the IDF. I believe that together we will manage to stand with all our missions. Sharon and the children, you also start a new path today. And I have no doubt that you will continue to be an anchor for Herzi. Last words to you, commanders of the IDF. The change of command also brings an opportunity to grow, to renew, to spread your wings, to fly high. Fulfill this opportunity for the security of the State of Israel and establishing our strength. Together, we will succeed. Aviv, thank you and gratitude. Herzi, congratulations.
That was Yoav Gallant, Israel's defense minister. Before we go back to the presentation, we're going to address some of the comments that were just made. Actually, some interesting analysis there because it's some very public statements. Israel's military will have one command set. Now, this seems to be a direct repudiation of many of the last few weeks' political debacles that have been in the headlines. What do we make of these statements?
I think out of all that was said by the Prime Minister and also the Defense Minister, that was the most important thing. That the Defense Minister, Yoav Gallant, from the Likud, came out very publicly and strongly just now and said that the IDF only has one commander and that there was a clear chain of command, alluding obviously to the coalition agreements that Netanyahu signed with Bezalel Smotrich, the finance minister, to give him controls over the military bodies that run and administer the West Bank, and also Itamar Ben-Gvir, the national security minister, who according to these coalition agreements is responsible now for the border police, including the border police that operate under now IDF command in the West Bank. So it remains to be seen whether Gallant's very public posture at the moment will be backed up by the Prime Minister. That's an open question politically.
And he said, he presented himself as the buffer zone between him and the politicians, meaning that he would fight the fight of Herzi Halevi facing Smotrich and Ben-Gvir. And it's not by chance or coincidence that both the politicians, the Prime Minister and the Minister have avoided the issue of the civilian administration and, of course, of the border guard. But they have stressed the fact that there is one commander, and this is according to the law, that the Chief of Staff only has one boss, and it is the Minister of Defense. What is more important here, we had a presentation of what is expected from this the new Chief of Staff to face in the coming 4 years. And first and foremost is Iran, the threat of Iran, because Iran comes in Lebanon, in Syria, in Iraq, in Yemen, and of course the nuclear effort of Iran. And he says very clearly that Israel has to prepare itself the Gallant has said very clear, Israel has to prepare itself in order to offer, the army has to offer or to present the leadership, the civilian leadership, the operational solution, how to attack, and not, I mean, if we can attack, is how to attack, and the decision will be taken by the politician. I think this is the crux and the focus of what was said right now. Now, one must also remember that the 4 years of Kochavi have been a revolution in the army. He has revolutionized the army and made it, the IDF as an iron fist. He has transformed the IDF, and it take years in order to understand what the changes that he had done. And I think Herzi Halevi will continue that. He'll continue that, and as the Gallant says, he will go to new heights. What does it mean? Mean more technology, more cyber warfare, more weapons from the United States. So you have to assure yourself that you have a partner in the battle, in the struggle against Iran. And this is, I think, what is the next mission. And between the lines, you can hear, because of the public criticism, that both the Prime Minister and Gallant have stressed the importance of the personnel, of the army personnel. And when there was criticism about the army pensions and so on, and says, no, we have to continue, otherwise we won't have an army of quality.
Okay, and we're going to continue with this discussion afterwards, but we are about to have Aviv Kochavi, the outgoing Chief of Staff, ascend here to give his farewell address.
Prime
Minister, Mr. Benjamin Netanyahu, Defense Minister, Mr. Yoav Gallant, distinguished guest. The war has started. These two words that the neighbor told my mom are my first memory as a child in 1967. These words became an integral part of my life. In the air that day was the understanding that the faith of the country is in the military. I chose a military service. Also, the names on the wall of the fallen in school had an influence. The country fights for its security, and I wanted to contribute my part in a significant service. From the day I drafted until today, I continue to work, to study, and to be impressed by the uniqueness of the IDF. The IDF is a place of values, of deep meaning, friendship, and joint targets. But above all, the IDF is the security shield that promises the existence of the country. On the day of the independence, David Ben-Gurion wrote, "Today at 4 o'clock, the Jewish state was established. Its faith is in the hands of the security forces." This is also the situation today. Thanks to daily arrests of terrorists through destroying weapons deep in country states. This is a country that collects intelligence. It's a country that initiates and protects the people of Israel, improves its security situation, and creates deterrence in the region. The victory pictures are daily. Parents taking their children to the kindergarten, the parks that are full, and a quiet meal on a Shabbat dinner. I've had the privilege of commanding the IDF. I reminded this to myself many times. And within myself, I said, I'm thankful. I want to thank many. I thank all my commanders throughout the years. I've learned from all of you. I've thanked the partners, the national security officers. I thank all the security organizations that together we prove that our cooperation is a national asset. I thank the U.S. military and its Central Command on their cooperation. I thank Member of Knesset Avigdor Lieberman for the trust he has given me. I thank the Prime Ministers and Defense Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Naftali Bennett, Yair Lapid, Yoav Gallant, and Benny Gantz for cooperation, seriousness, and responsibility. Advanced tanks and planes, many militaries have, and digital they all have, and yet the IDF is leading the path in many areas. He operates in a unique way that has no similarity around the world. The main reason is the quality of the people. It is not enough to have the weapons. You need dedication and talent to operate them. When Ben-Gurion said the faith of the country is in the security forces, he meant the duty of the commanders to provide the people, dealing with security. The security of the state is at the top priority, the quality of the commanders. I was not alone in the burden, but now it is my time to salute. Everything we achieved was together, and every one of you that wore the IDF uniforms was immediately to me like a son or a daughter. I salute all of you, but above all, I salute those that walked the path to its end. I bow my hand to the fallen and their families. I send my strength to those injured and a prayer to return those missing. I salute all the soldiers, those who investigate, fix, and assist with the operation. I salute the combat soldiers for their difficult service, with difficult training and difficult operations. Bullets or missiles were fired at you, and you continued until you completed the mission. I salute the commanders who chose to lead, to take responsibility and risks, and knew that commanding a military means being responsible all the time, without strict work hours, without personal time, throughout the day and night, through Saturdays and holidays. I salute many who cross borders and show creativity and courage. I salute all of those that operate in a very complicated population. I salute the General Staff, whose operation is an expression of a deep thought and planning and work beyond what is known. I salute the commanders that live a challenging family life, that see the children once a week, once every 2 weeks, or every 3 weeks. I thank and regret for all of those who had to miss the birth of their child, who were not there when their child took their first steps, that had to cancel the trips they promised and were not able to attend the birthday parties. I salute all the partners of the commanders dealing by themselves with the challenges, staying by themselves on weekends and holidays. I salute you, the commanders, you who chose to live a not normal life so that the people of Israel will have a normal life. I salute and thank you, but I remind you that, first of all, we are the ones who need to thank for the opportunity to serve in the IDF. A commander in the IDF deals with essence, with security, with education, and with values. He gives and receives. He builds and is being built. The IDF is a place for self-fulfillment, a place of truth and values, of meaning. The faith of the country is in the hands of its commanders, and we cannot afford anything but the best military, which means that it is being served by the best commanders and people. They are driven by interest, commitment, but they are rewarded, and the safety of the people of Israel is in their hands. I've had a significant service. Every day I operated out of a sense that the faith of the country is in the hands of the IDF and in my hands. How to improve the defense, how to prevent attacks and prevent threats, how to build a military that is professional and advanced. Not everything is perfect. Many things need to be improved. But our enemies should know the IDF is stronger, more adapted, and with a highly important attacking methods. And another mission I had is to maintain the safety of the soldiers. This is a heavy responsibility that I felt every day. And from here, I would like to send my condolences to the family of Zinoviev. The responsibility and the mission I pass on to Herzi Halevi. From now on, our commander, a distinguished officer, professional, and to all the citizens of Israel, you are in great hands, his and those of the General Staff. I conclude a journey of 40 years in which I walked all paths, most of them challenging and bloody. This was a meaningful and fascinating journey, but it would not have been possible without the anchor that I had at home. My daughters, Amit, Noam, and Maya, and my wife, Yael. This was a joint journey, and I'm grateful to all of you. I've learned from all my teachers, and from you, Yael, the most. You were a source of wisdom and strength. I was blessed, Yael. I conclude the journey with satisfaction. It had everything, successes and failures, scars and good moments, but never, but there was always an attempt to do the best. I conclude with a lot of hope because of the human quality youth with motivation that becomes great commanders. The responsibility was real throughout my position, and yet there were moments where that feeling got stronger. One of them was when David Leitner arrived at my office. He entered the room and tears started falling from his eyes. He came to me and said, "You know, what is the meaning for a Holocaust survivor like myself to be in the office of the Chief of Staff of the Israeli Defense Forces?" Some ask, what is the meaning? What is the value of the combat? And I give the answer of Moshe Bellinson over 100 years ago, until the most enthusiasts in the enemy camp know there is no means of breaking the strength of Israel in his country. My soldiers, I say goodbye to you, and I leave the combat and the security in your hands. I say goodbye to you with great appreciation and great love, from the first of the soldiers to the last of the commanders. I say goodbye to the IDF that I love so much. I salute all of you and thank you for the right to command a military with a strength that never did the Jewish people had before, and command the most special organization in the world, the military of the people, that serves the best of the people. This is goodness that also comes of the fact that the IDF unites the people. In the IDF serve people with different faiths that show every day that thanks next to differences we can also have unity and friendship. Also, in days of disagreements, the shared service of all parts of the society reminds us that we are one people with one goal and one shared future. This was my part. It has been a good journey in a very good military and good to serve our country. I salute you, my soldiers, and I hug you. You will always remain my soldiers, and from here on, I am your soldier.
Going Chief of Staff Aviv Kochavi, and soon to ascend to the podium as we speak is going to be the incoming Chief of Staff, Herzi Halevi, who is going to present his vision as well as his experiences in the military to date, which is a rather impressive military resume, to say the least. So that's going to begin in just a couple of seconds.
Herzi Halevi.
Prime Minister of Israel, Mr. Benjamin Netanyahu, Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, distinguished. I received today the command on the Israeli Defense Forces, the shield of the State of Israel and its citizens. When I drafted as a young boy, I did not plan such a long journey. Looking back at every position I've served in the 37 years of my service, had a contribution to this moment in which I received the honor to command the IDF. From childhood, I was brought up on the serving values and the love of the country, the people, and the land, and the home of my parents, Shlomo, of blessed memory, and Lena, my mom and my teacher. I was educated to be a servant of. I walked through the paths of this country as a boy and as a commander. The light of a Jewish community for those looking afar when coming back spark emotions of faith. The return with missing lines is engraved in the mold of every commander, knowing that initiative and risk are a necessity for the oath of maintaining the security of the state. The price of the risk pay the bereaved families. Some of them are here, people who lost their loved ones, the most precious of all, and I'm with them for many years. The bereaved families, those who are injured with body and soul, the missing and the captives and their families. You are the reminder of the responsibility of that is on our shoulders. We will stand beside you always. Unfortunately, also in the past few days, new names have been included in the list of the IDF fallen. We share the grief of the families and are committed to do everything that is we're able to prevent and learn from these. In the 75 years of our independence, we've turned from a country that is surrounded by enemies to a country that surrounds its enemies with its strength and abilities. But we still have major threats around us, from the problem of Iran, that Iran has a decisive responsibility preparing to solve it, through the northern border and the Gaza Strip and the challenges of the West Bank. Our response to the threats is with our security advantage, with our advanced abilities. Let our enemies know what we say, we also know how to do. And we are willing to do much beyond what we're saying. 3 factors set the result in a war. Your knowledge about your enemies, the strength that you have, your abilities, and above all, the quality of people that you have. In this spirit, we will continue to build the IDF as a quality modern military that nurtures the best of its people, operates in a rich knowledge space that connects the knowledge to the attack abilities and the maneuver abilities into one great strength. The response is also relied on the national resilience. The IDF is part of the Zionist operation, the protective shield and one of the engines of building the country and the people. Each of the young boys and girls that join the IDF comes out as an adult that contributes to the society, to the economy, and each of them strengthen the bond between the people and the military, a bond that is the essence of our military and national might. The 32nd Chief of Staff has just started his military officer's course. We don't know who he is, but it's our duty as commanders to set at the start of the way the best. Without them, it will be difficult to fix what will not be achieved from the very get-go. Value people, wise and brave. We do not know who are his parents, but we know that he could come from all parts of the Israeli society. The uniqueness of the IDF is that it was and still is a mosaic of the Israeli society. Also to my family has sources all over the world. The parents of Sharon, my wife, Aliyah and Abraham. I came to Israel from Casablanca. The parents of my father, Shlomo, came from Russia. And my mother, Lena, is the 14th generation in the old city of Jerusalem. The State of Israel is a home to the entire Jewish nation. Under its roof a place and a right for everyone that accepts its burden and is willing to sacrifice for it. I do not know who the 32nd Chief of Staff will be, but I'm certain that if you will have values and professionalism, if you will know to lead the command, then everyone will follow without asking where he came from. As a Jerusalem boy, in the religious scouts, Masuot, we lit fire and we called, be prepared. Today, with modesty, I'm willing to take my place in the chain of the chief of staffs that came before me. Each of them has a place in the history of the state of Israel, and I'll mention two of them today. At the start of the 50th year to the Yom Kippur War, I wish to mention Chief of Staff David Elazar Dadu, that commanded the IDF in one of its toughest tests. Dadu did not choose the time, but he was able to its test, to deal with its test. Thank you, Mr. Chief of Staff Aviv Kochavi, for the years that you commanded over me, the years that I was your colleague. I learned from you a lot, and I can testify that in every moment of your 40 years of service, and particularly in the last 4, you did the best for one important goal, the security of the country. What you have built, we will maintain, will strengthen, will develop, and where we need to, we will also change. As part of the chain of the building of the IDF, I accept the command knowing that I have who to share this great mission with, my friends of the General Staff. Together we grew and developed. Together we will continue and build. Commanders of the IDF, soldiers, you are the most special component of this wonderful organization. With you we'll continue to build and change. We'll prepare the IDF for war in front of close and far regions. We will expand the quality drafting of the IDF from all parts of the population. We'll strengthen the reserves and will maintain the IDF as one with values and professionalism that has no other considerations but security. Our partners in the intelligence and defense community, the secret of our strength is by cooperating, sharing information and knowledge. Commanders, we will do as we believe, and even if we are wrong, we will learn and look up, because learning is the only comfort of those who are mistaken. It is the basis of a great IDF. In Shabbat, the Jewish people moved from the Genesis to Shemot, from a story of a family to a story of a nation. The nation rose up, and with him, the threat. In front of the threat, Moshe becomes a leader. And what he does when he exits Pharaoh's palace teaches three simple things about leadership. We'll see his suffering. A good commander feels the common faith with his people. Moshe also initiates and operates against those who delivers a blow to his people. And Moshe also distinguishes between good and bad and separates between two who fight within his people. I wish us, the commanders of the IDF, that we will know how to fulfill these with courage and modesty. And finally, I would wish to thank the Prime Minister, Mr. Benjamin Netanyahu, to the Defense Minister, Mr. Yoav Gallant, that have just given me my ranks, and the Chief of Staff in reserves, Benny Gantz, who chose me out of 3 good candidates. Thank you all for your trust. The decisions of the government are our light, and we will operate to their days and nights. Thanks to my father of blessed memory, to my mom, to my brothers, to my sister, to my wide family, and to my friends. I thank from the depth of my heart to my children, Klil, Leah, Itai, and Yoav. You are my pride, an engine of my operation, and a place of comfort and calm for me. Two are better than one, and therefore a man would buy him a friend and marry a wife. You are both of them, Sharon. Both of them I find you. Thank you for the past and future meeting here today. Bless the state of Israel. This is how the prayer for the security of the country starts. I am moved to be part of the heads of the country, its ministers and advisors, and promise to be a quality partner and strengthen the defenders of our beloved country. Thank you.
That was the new Chief of Staff, Herzi Halevi. And we're going to come back to our panel here to discuss what was just said. We had a very consolatory note, but also some notable statements, both of the former and now new Chief of Staff focusing on the universality of the draft for starters, which is something that might run afoul of some elements of the religious wings of the coalition. What do we read into some of the statements that were made by both of them?
I think both the outgoing Kochavi and the incoming Halevi were very, what they say here, mamlachti, very statesmanlike, trying to place, as you said, the IDF and the military above any partisan politics and all the speculations that we're ongoing now and obviously ongoing and will continue to be ongoing. I think they all said the right things, the exact right things, as should be expected by military officers. Again, I think the most interesting thing to come out of the ceremony was Defense Minister Yoav Gallant saying that there was only one commander for the IDF, the Chief of Staff, that he was beholden to only one minister, the Defense Minister, and that Gallant as Defense Minister would be a buffer between the army and the politicians. Again, like I said earlier, it remains to be seen how that plays out politically. As they say in the military, the enemy also has a vote. Smotrich and Ben Gvir, the ministers that may have controls over various aspects of military operations and administration in the West Bank, will also have a vote politically. They will pressure, likely, the Prime Minister to uphold the coalition agreements that he signed with them just a few weeks ago.
Well, I can summarize the whole ceremony by one sentence: Israel is preparing for war against Iran. This is what transpires from all the presentations, from all the speeches. We have to prepare to meet our biggest enemy. The biggest threat today is Iran, and we have to prepare. So in the 4 years to come, we might see at least 3 confrontations: one with Hamas and Jihad, Islamic Jihad, one in Gaza and the West Bank, one with Hezbollah, and of course Iran. This is, in my view, what has been presented to the people and the people of Israel, and say this is what we have to prepare for. And we, the government, have already taken a decision to fight Iran. Please give us now how to do it. This is what I hear from those speeches.
It seems that core to that is Israel has been modernizing its military under that program begun under Kochavi, that restructuring, these new investments into high-tech. What sort of restructuring have we seen over the past 4 years? What sort of restructuring and what sort of investments are we expecting to see over the coming 4?
Well, there was first and foremost a revolution in intelligence and in cyber warfare. These are 2 elements that today command the actions of the IDF. And this is what has been referred to by Herzi Halevi. This is what we have to modernize to continue improving our intelligence capacities, because if we have the good intelligence or the best intelligence, then we can aim exactly at the point where it can hurt the enemy. This is one thing that Kochavi has begun from, let's say, when he was the chief of the military intelligence, from an intelligence apparatus that used to give assessments concerning politics, funding policies, and so on. He turned this body into a very operational body, only condensed, and I would say focused on targeting. This is the most important thing that has been done, and this is the beginning of a second revolution, because we haven't reached the end of it, and we haven't reached also the means that we today have means that we didn't have years ago. And I think that this has to be completed. The Prime Minister has signaled the fact that we need more money in order to develop such capacities, and this is what's going to be right now in the next 4 years.
Simultaneously, Iran, the enemy in the room, gets the vote as well, and we have seen them massively modernizing their forces as well, building a drone force that would make them a regional power and renders many contemporary air forces virtually obsolete next to it. What sort of threats are on the table that Israel is going to have to counter?
Well, you mentioned the drones, so that's a clear and present danger, although the IDF, out of all the militaries in the world, is fairly well experienced with both spotting and downing drones. We're seeing that now in the Ukraine war as well, Iranian drones deployed by Russia. Missiles and artillery rockets, especially precision-guided missiles, that's a major concern, perhaps a strategic game changer, especially when it falls into the hands or developed by Hezbollah in Lebanon. Also ballistic missiles coming from Iran in any kind of future war scenario. It's not just Hezbollah in Lebanon firing on Israel, or perhaps Hamas and Islamic Jihad from Gaza firing on Israel. It also might be direct fire from Iran with heavier ballistic missiles that can take down apartment blocks, so on and so forth. As well as, I think, the overall terror / militia / proxy threat. Iran for several years now has been developing these various proxies all around the Middle East, whether it's Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Syrian Shiite militias inside Syria, the Palestinian groups, whether in the West Bank or Gaza, groups in Iraq and Yemen. That's also a regional threat. But again, I think overall, in terms of military operations and even overall Middle East strategy, Israel has been pushing back against Iran fairly effectively. The campaign between the wars targeting Iranian assets in Syria and beyond Syria for now several years all across the region has been ongoing. It will continue under Kochavi and under now returning Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. To my mind, the real threat, the more immediate threat, is the Palestinian arena. We're seeing now an escalation in the West Bank ongoing since last March. Hamas in Gaza and Islamic Jihad in Gaza, always a present danger for an eruption and escalation there. And again, how that ties back into Israeli politics, very concerning for me.
Well, next Thursday, Nasrallah, the Secretary General of Hezbollah, is going to give again a speech, and I imagine that he will talk about the speeches that he heard on the Israeli TV, and I think that he will continue to threaten by saying that you don't frighten me, and we know that Hezbollah has a plan of invading villages on the border by units called the Radwan units, the commando units of Hezbollah, and together with a missile threat hitting sensitive strategic target inside Israel, this is one of the main aims that Israel has to counter, be it with the Iron Dome, be it with the sling, the David sling, be it with the laser dome, the new laser dome. And I think that a combination of missiles and drones and units trying to invade Israeli territory, this is from the Lebanese border and from the Syrian one with the proxies that are in Syria, the Pakistanis and the Afghans that are there, the militias that depend on Iran, and this Israel has to contain and to overcome, and this is something immediate. And as my colleague here said, the further you go, the heavier the missiles become. If they are fired from Iraq, or if they are fired from Iran, Israel has to develop a capacity of intercepting them already in mid itinerary trajectory, and try to neutralize the threat. This has, of course, again, depends on heavy intelligence, punctual intelligence, and then, of course, means how to counter.
Yes, and we only have about a minute left. I guess the big question is, with all the threats that are currently facing Israel today, are we expecting any serious intervention from the political crisis that seems to be threatening the military right now?
This is a political question, but I mean, I can only deal from the security point of view. I know that in Israel, when you have a threat, a real threat, a concrete threat, everybody goes behind the army and pushes the army ahead, said, you are the facade, you are the front line, you are the one who just have to defend us. And I think that in times of worry and of crisis, I think that everybody will listen to what the army has to say.
Okay. It's definitely a reassuring message that it seems that all the military leadership has been on the same page and that Israel has been modernizing and preparing for the new threats that the new era is bringing. Thank both of you for being in studio to help break that all down, and stick with us at the top of each hour for breaking news updates from around the region and from around the world, only here on I-24 News.
The Middle East is changing. Old alliances make way for new partnerships.
Bigger threats lead to new relationships, and shared goals mean new opportunities.
We speak to those who know the inside story.
Or those who are at the heart of the changes. Don't get caught up with the same old story.
Find out what's happening in Middle East Now.
Middle East Now, every weekday on I-24 News.
Imagine being able to see into the future.
What innovations will change the world as we know it? Join us as we meet the people changing our planet and discover the inventions shaping tomorrow.
Israel Business Beat, Sundays and Wednesdays, 9:30 p.m. GMT.
We're on the inside of political and religious passions in Jerusalem, breaking down the financial trends shaping the global economy, giving you key context, not just headlines, with the stories from Israel that touch the U.S. and those across the region with impact far beyond its borders. Sunday to Thursday on I-24 News. Catch the rundown, where the Middle East meets the world.
Sometimes it's tough to get past all the noise and get to the heart of the story. Even tougher to make sense of it all.